We are live now, and I say welcome very much at the Günther Fehlinger podcast. Our podcast is developing very well. We have now crossed 145,000 on X and also 16,700 on YouTube. And I just released a new podcast today, actually about Kosovo's Independence Day with Ronald Kokelari. You will see it live on my feed. And also, we are continuing our series of debates with many of the new countries which want to join the European Union, and also many of the countries which are already a long time on my show, also in the European Union. On my show, you could see a discussion with a Swedish representative, with a Portuguese representative, and all this material you can find on the Günther Fehlinger podcast at my YouTube channel and also later at the Spotify channel. That's what we are doing here. And this morning, it's a special day. It's the start of the Catholic Christian Lent season and also of the Ramadan. Today, at the same day, this Wednesday, we are basically celebrating the two big religions, which are also very important for the Albanians. And today, of course, as you can see, the topic is Albania. And today, I have a representative from Albania here. It's Orsin from a movement which is trying to reform Albania as much as I understand it, and hopefully also supporting Albania joining the European Union, because this is my big effort here and our effort with all my partners and friends in Austria. We are trying to lift Albania into the European Union 2029, that Orsin and all his compatriots can vote in the European Parliament election 2029. That's the bigger picture. And now we come, of course, to Orsin. He is from which city? And tell us a little bit about yourself and about your movement. We want to learn everything about you. Orsin, the floor is yours. You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you, Gunther. I come from the capital of Albania, from Tirana.
The old city of Tirana, which I love so much.
Okay, I've been here all my life. I was born here, and much of my activities have been around here
Tell me
for the
about
most part.
what have you done up to now, which is your age, and what's your background a bit? You're working,
Well, my age is I am 29 at the current moment, and my background is I have a master's degree in philosophy and a bachelor's in journalism. But I don't take those much seriously, as I would say, because here in Albania you tend to learn things. Life teaches you things more than school teaches you things, and it's like this for all of the Balkans, really. So yeah. As for my
I lived 6 years in Tirana, and it's a city you can learn a lot, and really you learn to love, because it's an amazing and beautiful city. I call it always the New York of the Balkans, and it's actually a very dynamic, beautiful city. I recommend everybody to go, and you are very lucky to live in that beautiful city.
I agree, but I would say that Tirana has a pretty long way to become the New York of the Balkans, because I mean it is a nice city. I can say that it is a nice city, but at the same time, if you compare it to big cities like New York, like New York is the center of finance, right, in the United States, and if you would compare it to California, then it would have to be the center of tech innovation. And as of now, we are not quite sure what we possess here that makes us comparable to these big innovation hubs
Of
of the
Europe.
Western
Right, but
Hemisphere.
you have very big buildings. I was always amazed. You have now, I think, 50 floors, 70 floors I hear I am planning. So it's very surprising, because many people in Europe have the feeling that Tirana and Albania is still one of the poorest places in the world and nothing is happening there. And when you go there and you see all the skyscrapers and the huge dynamic city development, you are very positively surprised.
Well, yes. I mean, when you see the big buildings, you might think that there is much going on in those buildings. But I assure you that, like most of the time, the buildings are big and they throw a big shade over the city. but I would say they're empty for the present moment, and they have been empty for quite some time now. So it's not even about a few months of distance from the time they were built. It's about years of distance from the time they were built, and they remain empty. I mean, most of them are empty. So maybe there are some shady things going on there, but I mean that would be another topic, quite entire another topic entirely. But yeah, I mean the city center
Yes. Tell me
has
about
been
yourself, your movements, your movements. You have several websites and youth movements, Reore and others. I want to know everything about them. What's your
okay.
please?
Okay, that would require some time because Berora is, let us say that if you read Berora on the platform X, then you are basically reading a book because what we write over there has a special meaning to us and has a special meaning to Albania. So basically, what you read over there is telling a story in and of itself. And if you read the website, which is berora.al, the website has a different tint. So the website is a theoretical website. So it deals with the theoretical principles of the movement. It deals with the sort of books that we might want our audience to read and educate itself upon. And it has to do like mainly the website is an educational website, as I would put it. But the website itself, even the website tells its own story. So there is a let me say there is some sort of educational evolution or an educational timeline on the website, because like with time we have evolved ideologically from being simply conservative or a bit more right leaning uh, in relation to the center right spectrum. We have evolved to adhering to certain principles from an intellectual current of the 30s in Germany, which was called the Conservative Revolution. And we have evolved to become aligned with several principles of the Conservative Revolution, namely the principle of conserving old traditions while bringing them to a new form of government.
So you
And
don't
we
like
believe
Eddie Rama very much, I guess.
we don't. I mean, the entire country doesn't like Edi Rama very much. It's not just us. But the thing is that in Albania, things are rarely as they look. You see, like you mentioned the buildings at the beginning of our conversation, and you mentioned how nice they looked. But in Albania, things are rarely how they look. And I mean, Edi Rama might put up a good image for himself when he comes over there in Europe. He might put some fancy shenanigans, like he comes dressed in suits that combine with the colors of his tie, and the colors of his ties are very provocative and they are pleasing to the eye. But I don't think that he comes as an emissary of the Albanians over there, but he almost definitely comes in as an emissary of himself. So he is quite good at presenting himself to the European establishment. But by presenting himself, he's not presenting the reality of Albania, because the reality of Albania is not presented by putting a nice tie over a suit. All right, like the reality of Albania. I mean, we talked a little bit. Like I keep going back to the reality of the capital, right? So we talked about the big buildings. So at the present moment, Tirana, the capital, might host like 1/3 of Albania's population. And if you move a bit further to the north, then you will find out that it gets progressively more empty as you move up to the north. And if you move down to the south, it gets even progressively empty when you go down the south.
I
So
lived 6 years in Albania, and I know basically all of Albania, most of the cities very well. And it's actually sadly true that especially when you go outside of the big area around Tirana and Durrës, you have much less population, and the poverty is also increasing dramatically. That's very sad.
Yes, and you don't have the tech innovation you would expect in places like Tirana. In fact, like most of the people in those towns, I mean, I call them towns, but some of them are starting to resemble ghost towns. Uh, Most of the people there live like I mean, they live a simple life, and of course they try to live with dignity, right? But it's not like the infrastructure over there is very well developed. As you see, even with the scrutiny that the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy was put under in lately, you can find out that most of the roads are not that very well built because some months pass and the concrete and the asphalt starts to diminish.
Austin, tell me about it because I lived in Tirana under the time of Berisha, and it was very dynamic time with a lot of highways being built to Kosovo and everywhere to the north also. But then suddenly there is a little bit of a lack since Rama is in power in 2013. This is now 13 years. There hasn't been a lot of progress, and recently there was this big scandal about Mrs. Paluco. What's this all about?
Okay, so as I would say, in the times of Berisha, Albania wore a shirt, but the shirt was not torn. But now, in the times of Rama, Albania wears a nice coat, but the shirt underneath is torn. So yeah, I mean, the times of Berisha were dynamic times, and the people back then had hope. At least they had hope, because well, I mean, when people cease to have hope, then you know that the country is heading to the point of no return. So yeah, back then I would say Berisha started to build things, but more than anything, Berisha did not want to destroy the hope of the Albanians. So he tolerated some things on the side, right? He told to himself and he told to his cabinet that if the Albanians are to prosper, they must progressively and slowly learn how to be European, right? But when Rama came, what he did instead is that he transformed the facade of the country into the facade of a European country, and took away the hope of the Albanians for a better future, all in all. And the thing about
Now
the
still in power in the opposition, I understand. He is the leader of the opposition, Salih Berisha. And recently there were some protests in the streets, and there was world attention on Molotov cocktails again. What was this all about?
Okay, so I think you must understand the context of the usage of the Molotov cocktails, all right? Because uh, I, in the last 2 years, Albania has gone from trying to preserve the illusion of democracy, of not trying to preserve it at all. So they don't even try to preserve the illusion of democracy. Because you must understand, Gunther, that Albania is a difficult political environment. Because this principle of things not being as they look stretches to all facets of life. And since Albania is not a very easy political environment, it's not a very democratic political environment. I mean, I say myself jokingly to my friends, I say that democracy in Albania exists once in 4 years, like one day in 4 years, every 4 years. That's democracy in Albania, and even during that day, you have to guard the votes. You have to hire armed guards to guard the votes from being stolen. So yeah, I would say that the usage of Molotov cocktails is a message that the opposition is giving to the current government, that we won't tolerate you to strip down our civil liberties. Because as of now, Günther, people are being arrested for nothing, and
Yeah.
people are being arrested for protesting in the streets. So 2 days ago, a friend of mine, a 20-year-old guy, a political activist, he was arrested in Durrës for nothing, for just protesting on the street. Last year, here in Tirana, I was arrested for an ex post.
You were arrested
So,
for an X post for X?
yes, for a post on X.
Oh, that's terrible. How come? It's freedom of speech in Albania, I think.
I mean, yeah, freedom of speech in paper. Like most of the time, it's freedom of speech in paper. And if you, like in Albania, if there are two outcomes, there are two possible outcomes in Albania. So if you start to say the truth in Albania, uh, you are either shunned, so you are either isolated, or you are taken out in some dark alley of the city at night.
Really?
About
Tell me,
yeah,
what
yeah.
you post on X, yeah? Because I post every day 100 things on X, yeah, and I was never arrested in Austria. So tell me what happened. What did you do that you were punished?
I started. I think to myself that I started to uncover a conspiracy that had to do with the government, that had to do with government people. It was related to a certain line of action from some government people, which was an impediment to democracy itself and was an impediment even to the future of Albania itself. And it had to do with our relation, our political relation to the United States of America
Is,
back at the time.
is this connected with the big scandal where there was this FBI agent in New York which was corrupted supposedly by some representatives from Albania? Unfortunately, I don't remember the name. There was a big scandal 2 years ago. Or what was the scandal about?
Well, I think you are talking about Charles McGonigal.
Yes, exactly.
Right, the New York the head of counterintelligence, FBI counterintelligence in New York City, and he was found out to be on the payroll of a Russian oligarch,
Of the
and
Pascha.
while Oleg Deripaska, yes, and while being on that payroll, he also took money from Albanian politicians to do God knows what, and he even tried to blackmail certain Albanian businessmen in order to extort more money. And yeah, I don't think that the plot that I was uncovering, it wasn't on that particular scale, but it was at a quite massive scale because like uh, back then and for the last 2 years, like people here in Albania, they have noticed something, but they rarely speak about it openly. And they have noticed that the country is isolating itself from what it perceives to be a shift in the world order, which came to be about by the changing of the administration in the United States of America. And Albania is trying to keep, let me say, a cold, neutral position on that. And there are political factions in Albania which think that a cold, neutral position on that is wrong. And there are political factions who would have us just cut relations altogether with the United States because they are afraid that further scrutiny from the United States of America would endanger particular parts of the political elite here.
But the world and also me, I have actually seen Eddie Rama quite smart hedging his bets before the American elections because he is famously connected with the Soros family. I think they always put selfies out, so it's no secret. Alex Soros and Eddie Rama have this kind of political or whatever love affair, that we can say very clearly. But it's also that he has presented more or less this island next to Flora to the family of Mr. Trump before the elections. And so he has somehow hedged his bets, no matter what the outcome of the 2004 elections, 24 elections will be. And so with Trump's family back in power, now I see that Ivanka and Jared have been visiting to Flora, and they have been they got actually this islands, the Sasan Island. And so wasn't that a smart move of Eddie Rama to be in both camps and to play the American politics in the favor of Albania?
Well, let me say that, as I told you before, like wherever Edirama goes, he goes as an emissary of himself. So he represents himself. I don't think that the current business deal he has with Jared Kushner, it doesn't do anything good or bad diplomatically to Albania. It might do something good to the current political elite of Albania, but it doesn't do anything good or bad in the short or the long term to Albania itself as a state. So it doesn't represent a realignment regarding foreign policy, or it doesn't represent a closer alignment with the civilizational interests of the United States as outlined in the State Department mission statement last year. So I'm sure that he played both sides. Of that, I'm quite sure that he played both sides, and he played them wisely. And I would also say that I mean Kushner would be interested to do that island deal with Berisha as well if Berisha was in power. So Kushner, at the end of the day, Kushner is a businessman. Kushner is not a politician, and Kushner does not represent. I mean, I personally I think that he doesn't represent the political interests of either the Republican Party or the Make America Great Again movement. So at the end of the day, you have two businessmen sitting on a common table, and the first businessman is American. He wants to build a resort on an island, and you have the second businessman who is supposed to be a politician, not a businessman. And he is supposed to bring us a better future. He's not supposed to sell parts of the country away. So when it comes to when it comes to that, I would say that this deal of Sazan, this deal of the island, sounds to me and looks to me more like a deal done in the terms of Soros than in the terms of Trump, because of the conditions involved to make the deal possible, and the short and the long-term profit of the deal itself.
So you don't think it's profitable for Albania to have such a big, maybe 2 billion euro investment? It is promoted in the media.
Well, it might create jobs in the short term, right? It might create several thousand jobs in the short term, but I think that Albania right now, and I think that concurs with the vision that Donald Trump has for his civilizational allies in Europe. I think that Albania right now must focus on concrete investments. So, concrete development, the development of industry, the development of critical infrastructure. Okay, so critical infrastructure right now in Albania is at critical levels of development, because you see, like, you have 13 years of the politicians saying over and over that they are going to develop the main port of Albania, which is Porto Romano in Durrës. They were going to develop it, and they were going to make it a hub for regional trade. And I think, personally, I think that it has the potential to become a hub for regional trade, and it even has potential to compete with neighboring countries when it comes to that. But you see, like, in 13 years, you see nothing but talk. Even by the government in Kosovo, like the government in Kosovo has been saying for the last 8 years that they're going to build a railroad, and that railroad is going to connect Albania to Kosovo, and it will facilitate trade and the exchange of goods. But at the end of the day, it's all talk. I mean, the plans are there, and I know personally, I know very competent people who helped draw the plans. The plans are there, but I mean, nobody is paying mind to the plans. So I think that as for the moment, like, Albania needs less flashy images for the media, and it needs more development in a concrete sense, in a feasible sense,
But I was
right?
in Kosovo 2 years ago with a business delegation, and we met Prime Minister Kurti. and he told us that this railway will be called the Karl Ritter von Gega Railway, after this famous Albanian who built the Austrian railways during the monarchy from Linz, from Vienna to Graz. And he has actually promised this to us, that this railway will be built and it will have this name of this Austrian Albanian famous engineer. So this project is not happening now?
As far as I know, the project has not begun yet.
That's very bad. And Porto Romano, I was personally involved very much 15 years ago when I lived in Albania. And we were all talking that this new harbor north of Durrës, to remove the commercial port north and to build a big new energy hub and port and a deep sea port and a NATO port, because Albania as a NATO ally needs also to be able to service big ships of NATO. And all these things will be built. And now I hear nothing is happening.
I'm very well aware of those plans regarding the deep sea port and the NATO presence. But as of the current moment, something happened with the public procurement process in regards to the port, and as of now, I don't think that anything has started or will start in the near future.
Austin, tell us a little bit, because you didn't live the whole secret why you were with this exposed, why you were punished. What was the story you discovered? You want to talk about it, or it's secret, or you don't wanna? I don't wanna push you too hard for it, but if you want to tell, you can tell.
I think that there are certain elements within Albania's politics which, as I told you before, I mean, there comes a time in the life and death of political elites when the political elite starts to care only about itself, right? So they identify themselves with the flag, they identify themselves with the people, exactly, and they are able to do anything to preserve their own power. And I think that in this particular case, it was something like this. So I had uncovered the deep roots of a political class in Albania, which, or let's say, of a particular faction of the Albanian elite that is very adamant, or should I even say, is very prone to selling the whole country if they must preserve their own political seat. And like, as I told you, Brerore is an educational platform, so we educate the public. As time passes, we educate the public on very crucial and important topics for the future of the nation. And I think that this faction of the political elite was disturbed by this kind of educational mission that we were undertaking. And they tried to isolate us, and they tried to, let's say, orchestrate a little bit of an arrest, right, for intimidation purposes. And it doesn't help that the arrest came right about 1 or 2 weeks after we held a memorial about Charlie Kirk in Tirana, about the murder of Charlie Kirk. We held a memorial, and the situation precipitated from that point onwards. So I would say that I was very close to discovering the crux of the problem in Albania, the essence of the political problem in Albania, the essence of the relations between state figures and political figureheads. I was about to discover the essence. I was about to discover how it all worked, and most importantly, I was about to discover why things don't work around here, like why things never seem to move an inch from where they are supposed to be.
Austin, but now you make me curious, because for a humble Austrian, I've tried to think, and a friend of Albania, which I try to be since the first time I visited Albania in '98, actually, on invitation of Gens Polo, when I was the EDS chairman of the EPP. I went there and it was total disaster. And so ever since this now, whatever, 30 years soon, I'm very much involved and trying to help Albanian politicians, Albania to develop, Albanians in Austria. And I always try to understand what exactly it keeps Albania back. Yeah? This is something I really want to find out. And if you can tell me now, this would be very good here on our show here today this morning on Ramadan. I would be so happy to find out because I always, I'm also a capitalist theorist. So I try to understand what exactly makes countries rich and why they are developing, how to make countries from poor communist countries into rich capitalist countries. I try to find out Albania is a quite unique case in that sense because of the very terrible nature of your communist dictatorship and of your very, very chaotic transition in the 90s with something close to civil war in 97, and then, of course, the consequences of the Kosovo Liberation War in 99. And you basically have now just 25 normal years when you can call them normal. And I'm very much keen, of course, to help Albania to join the European Union now. And you have achieved NATO already. But I never understood where this really little knot is. We have to cut the Gordian knot in order to make you grow faster. And I've written actually many articles about it. Some of your friends might who listen will know I've written many articles in my publication, The European Tax Reformers, about the flat tax. I was actually campaigning for the flat tax in that Berisha did it together with our friends. I was so happy. And then Abu Ahmedai has killed the flat tax in 2013, 14. I was very sad. And then he kicked me out of Albania, actually. That's the short story of my life in Albania. I was very happy when he was chased out of Albania recently. I think he is in Switzerland now, and he is involved in these big corruption scandals about the earthquake fund. So we can talk about all these things. But now let's, you, Osin, tell me, what is the real thing which keeps Albania back? Where is the nexus between corruption, politics, business? We want to know.
So the essential thing, I think, I mean, according to my opinion, is like, as a friend of mine would say, like at the present moment, Albania does not lack a big list of documents about potential reforms. All right, like we have a really big list of documents containing potential reforms, and like we have the best minds here. We have the best minds here who draw these plans, but like almost never, they never seem to materialize. So I have like, I have a hybrid thesis about the current situation. So in my opinion, from the one side, it's the communist legacy. And why I say the communist legacy, because you cannot transform the will and the mind and the hearts of a people by just formally changing the system, by just formally changing the constitution, changing the form of representation, changing the electoral code, and so on and so forth. You cannot do that. So the first aspect of the problem, or the first aspect of my thesis, is the spiritual aspect of the thesis. So Albania, first and foremost, has deep spiritual ailments that need fixing. Because if you mentioned corruption as a problem, so what is the root and the stem of corruption? Corruption lies in people's hearts. It's not something that you wake up one day and you are presented with two options, and the first option is corruption, and the second option is good governance, and you make a rational choice to be a corrupted person. It's way more deep-seated than that. It's not a rational decision. It's a spiritual ailment, and sadly it is a collective spiritual ailment that has its roots back in the days of communism, because back in the days of communism, the Albanian people were taught how to fight each other, and that has endured up to the present day. And back then, people used to fight each other because the subject of the economic class stood over their heads like the sword of Damocles. So you had people who fought each other because the family of the enemy were landowners or they were merchants and something like that. But these days you have another pathology. So you have the pathology of the communist class being transformed into a quite biological vat of people who uh, who have uh, have uh, have captured Albania, have captured the state of Albania, and whose biological constitution is all that matters to them. So until yesterday, the civil war was justified in terms of class warfare. But today and onwards, the civil war is justified on the basis of familial ties within the ruling elite. So that is one, I mean, that is part of what I consider as a spiritual ailment for Albanians collectively. And the other part is that, like, you know, that the Albanians have like these two very well known sayings. That the first saying is that the religion of the Albanians is Albania. And the second saying is that Albania is unique because in Albania there is no religious conflict. I think that to take pride in either one is a severe mistake because you cannot expect to have a population which stands on the precipice of spiritual alignment all the time. Because if you have a population that stands on that precipice, then you have a population which is prone to corruption. You
In
have
my
a population.
Also, in my podcast, I have an interview with the former president Nishani. He unfortunately passed away, but he was a very, very moral leader, and he gave me a very good interview. And in his timeline, you can still find the 69 explosion of churches, which the communist dictator, he visibly, like it was a public show, yeah? He exploded churches and he dynamited them into destruction. And I think maybe this complete annihilation of religion and the cultural heritage of Albania during this extreme form of communism, which Enver Hoxha practiced, is still leaving a lot of the scars on the soul of the Albanian people. Don't you think that this is one of the reasons, this war against religion, which Enver Hoxha has done?
Well, I think that, I mean, he destroyed the buildings, but to destroy religion itself, you have to destroy the hearts of the people, right? Because, like it says in the New Testament that the kingdom of God is within you. So your heart is the temple of God, all right? So even if you destroy the buildings, like you can still keep the religion in your heart. The thing is that this extreme form that civil war uh, took in Albania, civil class warfare took in Albania. But in my opinion, in a deeper sense, it was just a war for power, a war to preserve the power of the communist elite. This this destroyed the hearts of the Albanian people. And when religion came back in the 90s, religion did not come back in a positive sense. It did not come back in the sense that it would enrich us spiritually in order to rebuild the country. Religion came back to establish its own kingdom in Albania, to divide Albania once again. Like if Albania was divided up to that certain time when the religious buildings were destroyed, it was divided uh, on the merits of class, then from the 90s onwards, the religion tried to divide the Albanians. Because the religion, let me finish this because this is very important. The sort of religious institutions that came back, it was not a coming back, it was a new beginning because they had nothing to do like with the traditions of the Albanians. They thought, like, I know for a fact that the renewed Orthodox Church of Albania. They thought that Albania was in the apostolic times. And so they started to spread documents from the apostolic times, because they thought that this is the year zero, this is century zero for the Albanians, this new beginning after the fall of communism. But that is the wrong approach, in my opinion. Like Catholicism didn't do that, like the Catholic Church did not do that, did not think that Albanians were back at the apostolic times. Uh, I mean, Islam did some other things, which we can go more in depth, but I'm sure you know of them. But I think that that was the wrong approach, because what religion should have achieved in Albania was not to divide the Albanians further, and not try to transform the souls of the Albanians completely from a religionless existence to a to a fully religious life without ties to kin or nation. But yeah, the religious institutions, I think, have a major contribution to the idea that I have of Albania at its current time, being on the precipice, like being always on the precipice, being always in the middle, right? Because even these religious institutions, they had to be moderated by the state, because what they were doing were negatively influencing the hearts of the Albanians. So they had to be moderated by the state, and they exist in this sort of permanent moderation, in a sense of a permanent moderation in their doctrine and their practices, and so they never managed to enact real change, like real spiritual and cultural change, because they always stand on the precipice of moderation. And the Albanians, religiously wise, they always stand on the precipice of things, and they are in a permanent state of moderation. And I think that I mean, the day will come, sooner or later. The day will come when that permanent state of moderation has to go away. I'd rather see the Albanian people in the future uh, uh, holding religion dearly in their hearts than I'd have them be the tools of organized crime in Europe and in Latin America. Because believe me, if you don't have religion, if you don't have God by your side, then by the end of the day, you'll end up with a nice car, but your life will be a short and a cursed life. Right? You will be the servant of cartels. You'll be the servant of organized crime, and you will take pride in that cursed existence, and you will take pride that you did not follow along God's path. And by the end of the day, I mean, like you will have an entire population subject to this kind of mentality if Albania doesn't start to ask questions which have to do with its unwritten part of the constitution, which is the constitution of the heart. So this is one aspect of the Gordian knot. All right, this is, in my thesis, in my opinion, this is one aspect of the Gordian knot of Albania. The other aspect is sabotage. I think that Albania is currently being sabotaged by economically and politically by its neighboring states. I think that this
Which neighboring state?
by Serbia and Greece, but I think more.
More or less happening since 100 years, constantly, 110 years.
I mean, it might sound cliche, it might sound cringe, like at certain times, because you hear the Albanians all the time saying that Greece and Serbia are our greatest enemies, but it makes sense geopolitically, because Albania has the potential. I mean, I don't know what kind of knowledge you have in geopolitics, but Albania has the potential to be land and sea power at the same time. So it has the connection through land. It has the connection to land. You can build the railways through land that could make it become the hub for the Balkans. And it might pass like these railways. They might go from Albania to Kosovo, and then to Montenegro, and to Bosnia, and then up to Vienna. And that would be concurrent with the 10th framework of the European Union. Exactly. So it has the potential to become a land power in that sense. But at the same time, it has the potential to become a sea power because it has like three strategically well-placed ports. One in the south, one in the middle, and one potentially in the north. Like there are studies around that if a port is built in the north, like it could outcompete Greece. It could put Thessaloniki and Igoumenitsa out of function. So Albania has the potential to be land and sea power at the same time. So it gets constantly sabotaged by Greece and Serbia.
Greece and
Because
Albania have now concluded this sea border agreement, which is still open and one of the obstacles for the future EU membership of Albania. There was this concluded since 2010, I think it's open, the sea demarcation.
yes, the sea demarcation issue, I mean, that's not that big of a deal because that can be resolved in court. Like at all times, it can be resolved in court. That's not that big of a deal. The big of a deal is when we talk about ports. So the ports are big of a deal, very big of a deal. Like I think the ports are a crucial reason why Greece is actively sabotaging Albania, and the railway in the north is the reason why Serbia is sabotaging Albania. And you know, like sabotage is a subtle thing. Sabotage is not. It does not manifest itself in a direct way. It's not confrontative, right? Sabotage is very rarely noticeable, and it comes softly. It comes with waves, and like right now in 2026, it's February 2026, you might find yourself in a situation, and under the auspices of sabotage, 1 year later you find yourself in quite a different situation. So I think that when it comes to that particular topic, I think that the security apparatus of Albania is not doing a great job, because the security apparatus of Albania should pay attention to sabotage and pay attention to attempts of sabotage by foreign states. It should not pay attention that much to its own population.
When Edi Rama came to power in 2013, he promised a better relation with Greece and he promised the infrastructure of the south to be built. And I ask you now, is the highway now, so-called the highway to the south, to Kakavia, is already a highway? Is it finished?
Most of the big projects in the south, the big projects regarding the roads, especially those which were under the auspices of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy, most of them are already on their way to ruin.
To
Right?
ruin,
They
yeah.
have been, they have not been built to last, unfortunately. And especially the tunnel of Logara, the tunnel which sends you to Vlor. Like the tunnel has cracks. Like when it rains, the tunnel starts to put water, like water starts to enter the tunnel, and that's very bad on an engineering sense, on an engineering scale. Like I've asked engineers myself, I've told them, please look at this video, look at this picture, what do you think this is? And they've told me, if this continues, then one day the tunnel might just come and fall down on the cars.
That's
But
very
they've told me,
unfortunate
like,
for the poor tourists who will pass in order to see your beautiful southern Albanian tourists. I spent my honeymoon in 2024. I spent my honeymoon in Termi and in these beautiful villages down in the south next to these islands in Saranda. This was really very amazing. I went then to continue to Corfu and I really loved it. But the idea was actually that there would be a highway between Albania and Greece in order to connect these two friendly NATO allies, Albania in NATO, Greece in NATO, and you want to join the European Union. So in 13 years, it should have been possible to build this highway from Flora to what is basically then Ioannina. And the Greeks have finished it already on their side mostly. So it would have been wonderful because you have over 1 million Albanians living in Greece, I guess about 700, maybe 1 million. I don't know the exact number, but it's really a huge population. And in the summer, there's always traffic jams at the southern border. And I thought that this cooperation with Greece will result in better living conditions for the Albanians in Greece and also in better interconnectivity for the highways. But unfortunately, it didn't materialize.
It didn't materialize, and I think that that is a very important point you set out there, that almost 1 million Albanians live in Greece. And yeah, I think they should start to vie for political representation in the Parliament of Greece, just as Greece lately is asking for the Albanians to change the law on minorities, even though like we have like for 20 to 30,000 Greeks like in the south of Albania, but we have a very sizable population of Albanians in Greece, and I think they should start to vie for political representation soon. But anyways,
It didn't help
that's
to jail the mayor of Himara, this member of the European Parliament, which Mitsotakis made a member of the European Parliament. And I don't know if I forgot his name, but he's free already and he's still in jail, the mayor of the Greek
no,
Albanian.
he's free. He is free, I think. He
Good
is free.
for him. But you know, there can be, because when you want to join the European Union, you will have to have the support of Greece. And I see not so many measures of the Albanian government to really mend the relation with Greece, and of Greece to be nicer to Albania. I don't see so much. And we will have maybe many, many vetoes from Greece against Albania when it comes to the EU accession.
Well, I would say that, I mean, particularly when it comes to myself, I would say that, uh, uh, sure, well, like we will need to get into the European Union sooner or later, but that doesn't mean that we should appease our neighbors in order in order for their little cute requests to take shape in Albania. I wouldn't like something like that. And like with Greece, like we don't have problems regarding name. We don't have the problems regarding like the only problem is that Greece like just doesn't accept the fact that Albania can be a sea power in its own sense, and it should accept the fact that Albania can be a sea power with in its own sense. And I mean, sure, they can put a veto on our European Union membership, but they cannot take away our sea line. They cannot pretend that our sea line doesn't exist. And sure, they can sabotage the port, right? They can sabotage the establishment of a port, but they cannot continue to do that forever and ever. All right. So Greece has to come to terms that it's gonna have to share it's gonna have to share its ports with the ports of Albania in the far or the near future. And it has to come to terms with that now. Just as Serbia has to come to terms with the fact that Kosovo is a state. It's a sovereign state. It's not a part of Serbia anymore. Like, we're sorry, but it's not a part of Serbia anymore. It's part, and it might become part of Albania if a referendum happens in the future. So Greece and Serbia, they have to come to
We have
terms.
yesterday 18 years of the independence of the Republic of Kosovo, and I'm campaigning here for Kosovo to join NATO, to join the European Union together with Albania. So you will be united in the beautiful European Union together, and that's much better than any kind of unification project. But let's talk about.
I'm sorry, just one moment, please. I don't think that's better than any sort of unification process, because I see this point being repeated over and over and over by several people. And I'm sorry to say this, Gunther, but on this point, we don't agree. Like, I agree, I think that we must first join into a state, into a very functional state, with common political bodies of representation. And after we join, after we do this unification process and become one state, then we can join the European Union. And the European Union would do best to facilitate our national unification, as I am quite sure that the current administration of the United States of America would do its best to facilitate the current unification of the Albanians into one state. And I think that much of Euroscepticism stems from this point, and my personal Euroscepticism as well stems from this point, that we do not need to sacrifice our future. We do not need to sacrifice our future in order to make these sorts of amends to the European Union. Like, I mean, you are Austrian yourself.
Do
Like,
you
you
think
are
that
Austrian.
Albin Kurti, do you think that Albin Kurti would like to be the deputy prime minister of Edi Rama?
Well, the egos of our politicians are varied. Like we have, like the egos of our politicians are very colorful. They have like this, they have feathers, right? They have feathers stemming from the colors. I mean, yeah, with the current class of politicians, I don't know what will happen, but like in theoretically, and this is also a position of my movement, that we stand for the unification of the Albanians into one state, and we have nothing against the European Union if the European Union will grant us the possibility to achieve that, because like we're not aligned to Russia or anything. We just want to have our own state first. We want to unify, because that would I must put an emphasis on this, that would fix part of our spiritual ailment, because when you have a state of the Albanians with 20,000 square meters, that kind of delimitation of borders, that has its own implications when it comes to certain spiritual parts of the Albanian people. Because when you have Albanians, they start to ask, but why is it like this? Why cannot it be bigger? Because like we speak the same language, and we have the same heritage, right? And then you start to dig into history, and then you find out along the way, you find out that if UÇK didn't exist, then the independence of Kosovo would be impossible. But what took UÇK to exist? What took it to exist? What was the cause of UÇK? The cause of UÇK was an entity like Yugoslavia, which wanted to create a boiling pot of the peoples of the Balkans over there, and slam a Yugoslavian passport onto that boiling pot and call it a day. And I don't appreciate those kinds of projects. Like, I want a Europe of nations, and to maybe use a well-known rhetoric of Prime Minister Orban of Hungary. Like, he has his own opinion on that. He has his own opinion, but I have my own opinion on that. And I think I'm very well entitled to use that as a rhetorical mean, to say that we want a European of nations, and nobody else but us Albanians can say it better today, that a Europe of nations is true Europe.
Absolutely. And it is like this, that we're all patriots here. And we also have the defeat of Orban planned for April. You will see that he will fall, and Peter Magyar will be the prime minister, and Hungary will be back to reason. And when it comes to Kosovo, of course, we liberated Kosovo with our NATO strikes, and that was very good. Every bomb on Serbia was justified, and I was very happily supporting the liberation of Kosovo. And I'm a big fan of George W. Bush, who recognized Kosovo as the American president in 2008. And so I love very much the Republic of Kosovo, and I want it to join NATO and the European Union. And also, I want Albania to join the Eurozone and adopt the Euro, because I'm very unhappy with Albanian lek to be actually depreciating, and then getting more value, destroying the tourism industry. So I'm actually very much for a Europeanization of Albania, which I think you also agree, that you want a moral renewal of Albanians, and you really have a spiritual renewal. I say it's very important to have a Europeanization of Albania fast tracked, because my work experience and my 4 years in Kosovo and my 6 years in Albania, which I lived all over, it was 11 years I lived in both countries, have taught me that the people in Kosovo are in their spirit much more European than the people in Albania, unfortunately. Yeah? And that has many reasons connected with the immigration towards Germany and Austria from the Kosovo people and Switzerland, and with the Albanians mostly being in Greece and in Italy. But there's also other reasons with the communist past, because Enver Hoxha was much worse, actually. And so we have a different in the mentality between the Kosovo Albanians and the Albanians in Albania, which is actually quite astonishing. And it's actually much bigger whenever the language and ethnicity unites you. It is very much a cultural divide between Kosovo Albanians and Albanians in Albania. And I don't see a common state as a real good settlement, because it would lead to enormous conflicts between the Kosovo mentality of doing things with good governance, with proper administration, like a Central European mentality, and the Albanians who are doing everything like Southern Europeans, a little bit shortcutting the due process, if I want to say like this. So I think
well, those things
not work very well.
those things can be fixed. Like those things can be fixed, like with time, right? But what matters is the principle. What matters is the principle, the unifying principle. That is what matters in the end. Like, I appreciate your efforts, Günther. Like, I really do, because I mean, I haven't seen like lobbyists in recent.
Serbian sabotage of our excellent, maybe the beer got notice of our discussions, or whatever kind of secret services or whatever internet glitch it was. I don't know exactly, but we are here with Osin, and I try to convince him of the pleasures of being in the European Union. But he is a good patriot who calls for the moral renewal of Albanians. That's very good. He calls also for patriotism, and he has clear views that Serbia and Greece are blocking Albanians everywhere. And of course, it's like this, that unfortunately Greece has not recognized Kosovo up to now. And unfortunately, Serbia is more and more under the Russian thumb. And Mr. Vucic is, of course, a complete disaster and the tyrant of Belgrade. And I call for his fall. But unfortunately, Edi Rama has been relatively close to Alexander Vucic over his last 13 years. And he even tried to build the Open Balkan initiative with some crazy people in America actually supported, because obviously it's very bad to have this kind of openness with a country which in the mentality is still with Russia. And of course, it's Albanian first priority to work with Kosovo, with Montenegro, with North Macedonia, in order to form a Balkan Benelux of the neighboring allies of NATO, to work together against Serbia and against all negative Russian influences in the Balkans. This is my 15 years project of Balkan Benelux, which some of you know, this kind of closer union of Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Kosovo, and of course Albania. And then the Albanians are free, united in the EU, in the Euro, and in NATO, and secure. And that is the plan actually I have all over the time. And Osin, tell me, are you very much in favor of this Esad Pasha policy of Edi Rama, or do you think that Albania should have closer ties with North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Montenegro?
I think that the state of Albania should have the closest ties of the state of Albania should be to the Albanians themselves. Like in the homeland, in Kosovo, in the Albanians in North Macedonia, in the Albanians in Montenegro. So that should be one of the principles of foreign policy that we should develop and stick by, and actually stick by in these turbulent times, because the way I see it, Kosovo is a functional state, but the situations of the Albanians in North Macedonia is not very good at the present moment. and that needs to change, and that needs to change fast, because if it continues like this, and with the turbulent times that have been around in the Balkans for quite some time and will be for quite some time in the future, I think that the future of the Albanians in North Macedonia is actually right now, actually now more than ever at risk. So yeah, I think that Edi Rama, let us not make Edi Rama like the topic of the conversation, because like Edi Rama, by the end of the day, he's just one of the prime ministers of Albania, right? Because the apparatus of Albania is way deeper than the figure of Edi Rama. So the political elite of Albania is way deeper than just the figure of Edi Rama. And at the end of the day, like, I think that his tenure in power is coming to an end, and well, the current government has lost legitimacy. Like, the current government doesn't have the air of authority. Like, when governments don't have the air of authority, they resort to other means. The Albanian government has resorted to other means, but fortunately for us, Albania is actually, at the moment, at the current moment, is situated within Europe, and is situated within NATO, and is situated within the Western Hemisphere. So they won't. I think that these actors, they won't allow Albania to degrade into a banana republic, if we must say. So yeah, I don't think that Albania will be the next Serbia in the Balkans. I don't think that it will ever it will ever fall into Russian hands in the Balkans. No matter what kind of political parties spring up here, no matter what kind of politicians spring up here, I don't think there will never come a time when Albania falls into Russian hands. And so, in extension to that, I think that yeah, I think that like politicians here mention Russia all the time, you know. But the truth of the matter is that we have no chance of ever becoming anything in Russia's plans. So I think that we should start looking inwards, like, because Russia. What does Russia expect from Albanians? It expects the Albanians to be its useful idiots, right? So Russia, all over the Balkans, really, all over Eastern Europe. What do the Russians do? They convert the people to useful idiots. They convert the people to spies. They convert the people to agitators. They convert the people to the textbook definition of useful idiots. I don't think that it will ever come to that in Albania in regards to Russia.
We can rely on the Albanians to be with the Ukrainians against the Russians.
Of course, like but I mean, yeah, spiritually and morally we are with Ukraine. We are, as I'm sure that the United States is also with Ukraine, and I'm sure as the rest of Europe is also with Ukraine. Even if the United States and Ukraine are having a bit of a cold shoulder, they're giving each other a bit of a cold shoulder. But I think it has to do more about the. I think it has to do more about this silent competition between the United States and Europe when it comes to diplomacy. I don't think it has to do with the hypothesis that the United States is abandoning Ukraine. I don't think that will come to pass either. But I think that Europe should take more action when it comes to Ukraine, because Europe is not taking action when it comes to Ukraine.
Should
Like
do more.
Europe.
I agree
You,
100%. Yeah, to send the Taurus missiles and to invite Ukraine into NATO, this is absolutely necessary.
Yes, and like Europe, in regards to Ukraine, Europe has big words, right? Especially when the United States comes into the equation. They have big words, but they don't have that. They don't have that much action. And so by the end of the day, they resort to blaming the U.S. Oh, you didn't do this. Oh, you did this that threatens our short-term interests. But I mean, up until a certain point, I remember when in February 2025, like people were very panicking. They were panicking about the future of Europe. They were panicking about the new blocks of foreign policy that would be created. And I mean, there was no united will in Europe to either use the Russian assets to finance the war in Ukraine or either send troops over there. So I really don't understand what's all the fuss about Russia if you cannot commit more to an active conflict zone over right there at your doorstep. So what's the fuss about Russia? So maybe they're using, maybe some of the politicians in Brussels are using Russia as a scapegoat for their own problems. Because if you cannot defend, your own allies at your own doorstep, then what can you do? Like, well, what's the fuss? Like, I'm trying to understand what's all the fuss about Russia.
It's a terrible maniac, genocidal state, which is our enemy, and we will defeat it, and Ukraine will win this war. No worries. And thanks for the Albanians, because I think also Albania has sent some weapons and has sent some support. And on that one, actually, Edi Rama was very positive, in full solidarity with Ukraine, and that we have to also account for and say thank you. A big parliamentariat from the side of the Ukrainians for the Albanian support. And you also have a Slava Ukraine street in the city of Tirana, which I have visited as well. And I was very happy. Actually, that was one very good thing which Arion Velia did. Whenever he has some issues with the incinerator, I understand, and he has some problems with corruption. But on the other hand, that's also very good if the socialists are self-sacrificing themselves on the process, because you need to clean up the Albanian politics ahead of the European Union, because that's some of the demands that we do. So, Osin, let me ask you about your situation. I understood that you organized a memorial for Charlie Kirk. And let me understand why you did it, and what's your relation with Turning Point USA, and what you admire in the personality of the late leader of Turning Point USA.
Well, we don't have a concrete relation to Turning Point USA, but like I've been following Charlie Kirk like for quite some time now, as a speaker, as a speaker who was able to motivate the youth, and a person who motivates the youth is very important. Like that person has very big importance, because people that motivate the youth are basically building the future. They're basically motivating the future itself. And so I don't think it was much about the murder itself, because like you have these political murders, like they try to assassinate Trump two to three times, for God's sake. So it was not about the murder, it was about the reaction to the murder. You had people celebrating the murder. And that shows you another very, very, very big problem, very deep problem with certain parts of the West today. And you had the people who were celebrating the murder of Kirk, and we saw Kirk as a role model for the way that politics should be conducted in this day and age. And so we decided to hold a memorial. And I do remember, because that post blew up. Like we announced the memorial, we announced it 2 days after he was murdered, and in about another 2 days, the post gathered about 250,000 views. All right, 250,000 views, and so it was like it like a swarm of bees, like in that particular post. And I mean, yeah, the memorial was modest, because like there was lots of backlash in that post, right? So 200,000 views, quite lots of backlash. Like people were saying, "I hope you end up like him. I hope yeah." I got like, because I notified the U.S. embassy beforehand, before we had the memorial, and like I could count right like 60 death threats in like 24 hours just because of that post. We held the memorial, like all in all, we held the memorial. Uh, it was a modest gathering, about 30 people gathered for that particular thing. And yeah, I mean, but the backlash and the reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder, even all over the world, was something I couldn't believe my eyes. Right? Why this sort of a reaction for a person who says that abortion is wrong, right? I mean, I personally think that some of his views on Ukraine were maybe a bit harsh, right? And they came from a place of ignorance, not from a place of ill intentions. But I don't think that's cause to have those sort of reactions, and we must try to keep that mentality as far away from Europe as we can, to react in that certain way when it comes to political murders such as that of Kirk. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's absolutely wrong to murder political opponents. I didn't like Charlie Kirk's foreign policy because I'm 100% for Ukraine, for Kosovo, for Israel, and for regime change in Iran. And I'm for freedom globally and American firepower to provide the backbone for the global security system, as we have done for the liberation of Bosnia and the liberation of Kosovo, and also the defense of Albania, obviously, and all this what we need. And he was not in favor of that. So I thought he is a bad apple, but also bad apples have not deserved to be killed by their political enemies. And I reject all form of political violence. And I applaud you that you did this memorial. That was a good thing to do. And congratulations. And I'm really surprised that somebody can give you a death threat just because you make a memorial for somebody who is slain by the bullet of an assassin. That's really shocking for me. I learn a lot about Albania, which I didn't know during this interview. And this is also negative sides, actually, that somebody can make a death threat for such a political statement is very shocking for me. Do you have any evidence who was that from the socialists or from some enemies of Kirk, or what is the background of this assassination threats?
Well, as we gathered from the post, so we made an analysis, a quite detailed analysis of the post itself, and we found out that actually most of the traffic had come from people associated with the current party, the current ruling party. And something that was a bit funny was that like one night before we held the memorial, even people from the military started to comment in there, and started to make like subtle insinuations that maybe it's not good to hold this memorial. Maybe it's not. Maybe you should cancel it. Like maybe you should.
Really?
Yeah, it was not like the people from the military, they did insinuations, but like the paid people, I presume the paid agitators that were sent there to that post, did comments like, oh, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your family, we're going to come to your house, we're going to do this to you. Like, I don't take them seriously, because like in Albania, you don't take things seriously until something actually happens, right, most of the time. But it was a textbook proof of the sort of the tension that was boiling during those times in Albania, in Kosovo, and even in the wider region, when it came to this a question of foreign policy alignment. Like, what should we do? Should we keep to the promises we've made up to this certain point, or should we take the chances to align with the United States and affirm the mission statement of the Department of State, that the form of the nation state is the highest political form in existence?
And let me ask you, will you join Albania, the Board of Peace, this week in Washington?
Yeah, Albania joined the Board of Peace. I think we should wait and see, and we should wait and see to we should wait. We should definitely wait and see what the Board of Peace ends up being. Right, it's very early to see what the Board of Peace will end up being. Some people are saying that it's going to replace the United Nations. I think that's very far-fetched at the current situation. It's a very far-fetched idea. Not a chance of happening at the current state of affairs. Maybe at another state of affairs, we might throw the idea around that the Board of Peace or something akin to the Board of Peace is going to replace the United Nations, but then we would have to enter a new phase for the world, and that would be the multipolar phase. And I don't think we're I mean, even the latest declarations of Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the Munich Security Conference confirmed it again. I think for the Europeans that the United States does not intend to quit Europe or isolate itself in the Western Hemisphere. So to revitalize, let's say, the Monroe Doctrine doesn't intend to do that. So yeah, I think we should wait and see what happens with the Board of Peace, because even like the list of states in the Board of Peace, it's a very peculiar list of states, because you have states like Vietnam, you have leaders like Communist Party of Vietnam, uh, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam partaking there, and well, at the present moment, I can say that maybe the Board of Peace is a second-hand guarantee for these states that they have a place at the upcoming new world order, let's say. I don't know. Let's wait and see what happens. But I don't like. Yeah, the Board of Peace is minimally it is a guarantee. Minimally, it is a security guarantee, right? But you never know if it's going to become more than that. And to the people that say that the Board of Peace will go away when Trump goes away, my personal opinion is that whatever Trump has set in motion right now, and I think that it's not only Trump's policy, I think this policy is a Pentagon level policy. I think that this policy will not go away. Will not go away for the next 15 years. Even if Trump goes away, I think that the current policies that are in place will not go away.
Good. Let me ask you a little bit about Albanian internal politics. I give you the following starting point, because in 2013, Edi Rama won, and everybody knew he will probably do 2 mandates to 2021. And I predicted in 2014, when I left Albania to Kosovo, I predicted I will be back in 2021, and there will be Lulzim Pasha, the prime minister, and he will lead Albania into the European Union. Like many of my predictions, unfortunately, this was totally wrong, because in 2021, again, Edi Rama won the elections. And as it seems, also 2025, he again won the elections. And now this is his unprecedented fourth term as a prime minister, now leading to 2029. And then he will bring Albania into the European Union and not Dulcim Pasha. And surprisingly, of all the outcomes is then that Sali Berisha, the historic leader and first president of Albania, Democratic Albania of the 90s, who had to resign in 97, and then he came back as the prime minister in 2005 and was running two very successful terms for Albania until 2013. He is now the leader of the opposition again in the year 2026 at the age of, I think, his 80 years. 80 years, of course, is also Joe Biden and it's also President Trump. So it's nothing bad to be 80 years. But normally, as a leader of opposition, you have a young personality who is really promising 10, 15 years of governance in his personality and his lifespan. And so I don't understand exactly what is the perspective for conservative Albania for change in 2029. And now I see then there is Molotov cocktails again. So I would like to understand, and I think many in the European Union would like to understand, what exactly is the future of the Democratic Party? Is the alternative to Edi Rama in a meaningful center right-wing party? And what's your perspective on the political situation in Albania right now?
Well, as I told you, Ginta, the current government in Albania has lost legitimacy. When governments lose legitimacy, uh, the government lost its air of authority. Like, you cannot find a soul right now that says that the government is good. Like, we should endure with what the government offers. But you will find that the government currently has the necessary mandates in parliament to be in power for the next three years, right? But that's the only thing that keeps the government together right now, is that majority, because the popular support is almost non-existent. And especially with the last inquiries by the special prosecution in Albania, popularity has waned, like it has really waned. But when it comes to the opposition, I think that first of all, Albania must have a functional opposition. Like, what do I mean with the term functional opposition? Berisha is a functional opposition because Berisha has experience, has political experience. He knows the nooks and crannies of Albania, and nobody can deny that. And that's why people hate him. Like, I think that's why people hate him, because he knows the nooks and crannies of Albania. Like, he knows the crevices. He knows the deepest and the shadiest parts of Albania. What happened and basically what's going to happen. So in order to have a functional opposition, you got to have someone in charge who knows the nooks and the crannies, who has the political intuition, to have that sort of knowledge and that kind of wisdom. So the message that Berisha gives, like with the Molotov cocktails and with those, it's not a call to attention. It's not a call to attention for himself. Like, he's not being the emissary of himself by doing that. He's being he is actually giving out a warning. He is giving out a warning that if things continue in the manner they have been continuing in Albania for the last 2 years, then soon you're going to find out one day that Albania won't be a democracy anymore, it'll be a dictatorship. I think that is the message that is being transmitted, and I think the European Union should take that message very seriously. I think the European Union should take that message quite seriously. That democracy in Albania
To
is
the
waning.
European Union, of course, we want democratic Albania, but we want a democratic process where there is democratic change, absolutely. And we want to have an Albania in the European Union in 2029. So Molotov cocktails are not really very, very helpful as a process. And all these protests on the boulevard, this is relatively a kind of a socialist way to do things. And we really don't like these TV pictures, because the pro-European elite in Europe, we want to get Albania into the European Union as fast as possible now as a response to the Russian war of aggression. And we want to get Ukraine into the European Union, also Montenegro, North Macedonia, potentially Kosovo and Bosnia, everybody but Serbia. That's my line. And I don't want Serbia in the European Union, but Albania, very, very, very good. And so we need Albania, which is ready to join the European Union. And of course, there must be a functional democratic process in the parliament, and we don't need Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking here as a spokesperson for the opposition, but let me put it like this. So you have two forms of violence. So if somebody comes and hits you in the face, then you'll feel pain for a short amount of time, right? Then will heal. But if someone puts a directed microwave weapon to your brain, then you will suffer long-term consequences, right? So what I think is that the current show with the Molotov cocktails represents like these short. As I said, I consider it a warning. I consider it a warning. No, like those injuries. Those, I mean, surely the situation shouldn't degrade to that point. But it's not. It's not like a big deal happened. I think it's way more of a big deal what is happening in the underbelly of Albania right now. That's way more of a big deal than whatever Molotov cocktail is thrown to the prime minister's building. I don't think the Molotov cocktails. I mean, you can throw 1,000 Molotov cocktails over there, and they still won't be equal to what certain sections of the government are doing in regards to the erasure of democracy in Albania.
Good, Osin. What's your own perspective? You want to engage in politics, or what's your view on this Democratic Party as an alternative? You're active there, or you want to be active, or you want to create your own political party? What's your perspective on the political process?
On the political process, I would say that as of now, with the current turmoil in Albania, I think that every new political party that springs up right at this moment is destined to be filtered out by the system and taken apart and be destroyed in the way that even the new parties, the new oppositional parties in Albania are being taken apart and destroyed, even if they don't understand it themselves. But yeah, I think that we will take part in politics. Like here's the situation, Gunther. Let me put it like this: uh, when the rule of law becomes a thing in Albania, when Albanian politicians will have the possibility and the potential to think about alternative ways of life, and you will have politics proper in Albania. Until the rule of law becomes the norm in Albania, you will have organizations like mine, which are situated like half out there in the light, half in the darkness. Like we try to preserve ourselves, we try to preserve our own continuity, try to preserve the communities we've created, and yeah, we try to preserve our vision for the future. But I think that in the next 4 years, like maybe we will partake in the political process, and we will do such under the auspices of a political party or even a wider movement. Because to be honest with you, I don't like the framing of a political party that much. Like political parties, like or right now, political parties have become like these old-fashioned business companies, which wear they all wear a suit, and they all pretend they're engaging in politics, and most of the time it's rhetorical. And I mean that's why our first choice were to be a bit more right to the right of center, right? So we're a bit more on the right on the political spectrum, because we don't engage clearly on rhetorical devices. We engage in political concepts. I think that we will partake in the political scene as a legitimate movement during the next 4 years. But right now, at the current moment, our considerations are strategic. Like our concerns are of a strategic nature. Like we are trying to we are not trying anymore to be the early warners, like the early voices of what's going to happen, because we already tried that for the last 2 years. And I mean, I don't intend to boast here, but everything we said became true, right, in regards to Albania. But we are trying to steer Albania to a certain path, and I think that the sooner we do that on a spiritual and on a cultural level, the sooner we do that, the sooner the future of the Albanian people will be guaranteed, at least for the next 20 years.
And that's what we hope very much at this podcast, because I'm very much in favor of Albania joining the European Union, Kosovo to join the European Union, North Macedonia to join the European Union, and then Montenegro to join the European Union. And best already in 3 years, together with Ukraine. This would be the perfect outcome of the 2026 years, and this would be perfect. And I hope, Osin, I know that you're a bit Eurosceptic patriot, I understand that. But inside the European Union, the prosperity, security, and the rights for political expression and also the healing of the Albanian society from its communist tragedy and this trauma of communist dictatorship will be much easier, and the Albanians will, as Europeans, be much more freer and much more happier, more prosperous, and also can overcome all the past much better inside the European Union. So whenever you are skeptical, I hope that this conversation has helped to bring you on the European path. And I hope, Osin, that we can work together very closely in the coming years to lead your beautiful nation, which I spent 6 happy years in. And I love it so much. And I have so many friends there and also in Austria from the Albanian community. I hope that Albania will be very fast in the European Union. Now, your closing statement, Osin, please. Thanks a lot for joining the show and some optimistic goodbye for our audience. And then we will leave this podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Günther. It was really a pleasant conversation. I think that I hope that you were satisfied during our conversation. I hope that you got the necessary memos that you would have to get about the state of Albania and about the future of Albania. And I look forward to further cooperating with you in the future.
Thanks a lot, Osin, from the movement Preore, and a man who wants the spiritual renewal of the Albanians, and he is very passionate about the future of this beautiful country of Albania in the European Union. Thanks a lot for coming to the show, and all the best, and best regards to Tirana, a city I love so much. And I hope you have not a lot of rain in the winter, but a lot of sunshine. And thanks a lot from Vienna.